there's a lot of people I see, especially who were around in the early days of the web, who have this, I guess you could call it a utopian view of how the web should operate. They think back to the 90s and they're like, back then, you didn't have every single website full of advertisements. Most services were just being run as like volunteer things. No one was making money. And you have people think, well, why can't the web just go back to that? And it would be nice if there was more self-hosting, if there was more people doing their own thing. It wasn't just every single, like, it would be nice if you went to a I don't know, let's say a creator's page, and it didn't just link to their Twitter or their Facebook or like anything like that. But whilst it would be nice to have more people playing around with things on the web, you're never going to get back to a point where the web is just not like a very monetized space. People have built up giant businesses on the web now. It's not like it was. That's just trying to go back to that is just it's a fruitless effort. You're just wasting time trying to argue that position. Advertising right now is the least restrictive model and probably the least bad. I think there is definitely a place for paywalling content, for like high production value content for sure. Like you have like a big crew. It costs like tens of thousands, $100,000 to make something. Sure, yeah, absolutely. But if you had a paywall on just to access YouTube or to access a creator's channel, most things that exist now would not exist. Like, people just don't have the production value to justify people paying for it. And some might argue, well, they just shouldn't be making stuff on the internet then. And that's a fair argument to make, but it's certainly not my position. I think that it is nice that just any old person with a camera can go and make things, and they're not required to have this big crew behind them, effectively just reproducing TV on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would even argue like the web of old, where people would self-host, hasn't gone away. It's still here. People still self-host blogs with no advertisements. People still self-host their own videos, their own things. The issue is that you can't have that level of like small individual infrastructure management with the huge amount of engagement that you get from a site like YouTube.
Right.
You can't have both worlds. That's just not possible because it gets to a point where it's not economically viable for you to host a service that gets hit by millions of people worldwide every single day, especially not with video. So
yeah, I think that's a big part of the reason why PeerTube is just it. Like, people have asked me like, "Hey, why don't you use PeerTube?" And like, I guess it's cool to have as a backup there and just have like another place people can see stuff, but PeerTube just cannot work as a large video distribution model because it is this thing where, the only way you're going to monetize stuff on PeerTube is having in-video ads, by having links to go to other platforms. And it's really convenient what YouTube provides. Just being able to upload a video and YouTube deals with all of the advertising is very, very nice as someone who wants to make content. And I don't think every platform needs to have user content monetized. Like, I think one of the most harmful things that happened to Twitter is the fact that posts are now monetized if you have a check mark. So you have people, you already had people who were engagement farming just saying nonsense. Now you have people engagement farming because they know they're going to make money from it. I do like that if a comment gets a a community note, it takes the monetization away. So if people are trying to be really annoying with it, trying to like just make shit up, it does stop that. But there's a lot of stuff that doesn't get noticed or is true enough where it doesn't get a note, or like you know exactly what's happening here. Like, it's clearly set up for no other reason than to get you to engage with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other side of the coin with monetization. There's always people are gonna try to min-max it, right? And that's the issue with advertisements as well on websites. You got some websites who are 90% advertisement, and 10% content.
Yeah.
Nobody wins here. And that's why we have like click big farms and stuff like that. So, but does that mean, okay, well, because we have those types of like very low effort, low quality content, we need to completely kill any type of monetization on the web? No, not really. Because again, like you said, like there's value in having content freely accessible on the web. There's places though that content's not paywalled and it works just fine. Look at the Wikimedia Foundation and Wikipedia. That's a very good example. But I don't think as a society we can have like 100 Wikipedias that we all donate to. It just doesn't work. And so you either end up with centralization of content or with some way to monetize it so that it can be somewhat distributed between multiple platforms.
And the centralization is something that sort of naturally happens when you have a distributed network. Mastodon is a really good example of this. Mastodon is set up to be this thing where you have a bunch of small servers that are federated together, but you can see exactly what happens. Where do people go sign up? And this was especially true during a lot of people leaving Twitter. They went to mastodon.social. They went to all of these other like main Mastodon services because firstly, there was confusion about how to sign up. That's a fair point. I will grant people that. But also, they didn't want to go and find some little server. They found the first thing that was Mastodon related, and the first thing that's going to show up is the biggest one. So they went to that one.
They went to the server.
Yep.
Yeah. They went to the server with the biggest local feed because when you loaded up Mastodon, that's what you saw.
And yeah. And this is especially, it's even more true with the centralized services where if you don't have this communication across platforms, why would you want to go to some new social media platform that has a couple thousand users where you could go to Twitter, you could go to Instagram, you could go to Facebook, where you don't even have to tell people these exist because everyone you know probably already has an account, and if they don't have an account, like, they were never going to make an account on a social media platform. Like, if they're one of those people that don't have social media, no social media platform is going to convince them to make it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's the other side of the coin. That's just, yeah, that's how it is. And to go back to our main subject, that's why attribution is important, because like it or not, advertisement is what is enabling those platforms to exist in the first place, regardless of if you like one platform or another. But we wouldn't have that trove of information of, yes, very good videos, very bad videos, and everything in between if advertisement wasn't there. And denying just the very basic measurement on if a campaign has been successful or not is not going to allow advertisement to exist. And I'd rather have a way that preserves user privacy by having that middleman that aggregates all the individual reports and then ships that to the advertisers versus having like the very invasive tracking that we have in place right now. That said, we do have both. It is another data point, and we need that legislation aspect.